Welcome to video 1 on weighted averages. The weighted average is, I think it's most, apparent in my world when I think about grades. So like exams are weighted more than homework and that kind of thing. So that's usually where you see weighted averages. But they can be in all aspects of life. And so our basic way of looking at these is that we will have data values. And we will take a data value and multiply by the weight that is associated with that particular data value, which is why you see the ones here. So I'll take data value 1 times the weight 1. I'll take data value 2 times weight 2. I'll take data value 3 times weight 3, and so on, so on, so on. And I divide it by the sum of all the weights. If we deal with percentages, all percentages is 100%, which is 1. So you won't see me dividing by 1 because if you're dividing by 1, you get the same thing. So let's get into doing some problems here. A survey asked 60 people how much they expect to spend on Christmas presents. Of them, 15 people are going to spend $50, 31 are going to spend $60, 10 plan to spend $75, and 4 plan to spend $100. What's the average amount people plan to spend? So if you think about this, all right, I'm going to organize. 15 people are going to spend $50. 31 people are going to spend $60. 10 people are going to spend $75, and 4 people are going to spend $100. Okay, so if we think about this, we can figure out the total amount spent, right? I kind of set this up for you. If we multiply 15 people at $50 each, that's what they're going to spend a total of $750. The 31 people who spend $60 each are going to spend $1,860. The 10 people at $75 each, if I multiply those, I get $750, and then I have $400. So the total spent is $3,760. Well, now we have to think about dividing by the sum of the weights type of a thing. Well, how many total people are spending money? That's what we're going to divide by. So this is the total amount spent divided by the total number of people spending it. And you know from the problem, but you're dividing that by the 60 people. So when I do that, the average spent per person is $62.60. And that makes sense, right? It's about right here in terms of my money. And the majority of our people are spending $60, so it makes sense that it's pretty close to that. Number 2. Ken recently went on a road trip. He made 2 stops on the way away from his home. He purchased 11 gallons at $3.23. Then he purchased 14 gallons at $2.89. And on his return trip, he made 1 stop, purchasing 17 gallons at $2.76. So what was his average fuel cost per gallon? Okay, so we're going to do this kind of the same as we did in the first one, right? Be organized. 11 gallons at $3.23. 14 gallons at $2.89. 17 gallons at $2.76. All right, so now we multiply. When I multiply the 11 times $3.23, I get $35.53. My 14 gallons at $2.89 is $40.46. 17 gallons at $2.76 is $46.92. So the total Ken spent on gas was $122.91. How many gallons did he buy? 42. So if I divide that by the 42 gallons he purchased, right, because we're talking about cost per gallon, so total cost divided by the total gallons, and that means his average fuel cost was $2.93. And again, if you look at what he spent, $2.93 is kind of right in the middle. Makes sense that that's where it's going to be. All right, the grade point average. Grade point average is also a weighted average, and when you think about these, an A is worth 4 points, a B is worth 3 points, and so on, meaning a C is worth 2, a D is worth 1. And it makes sense that if you get an F, you earn no points because you failed the class, right? That should make sense in your head. So when we're looking to find your GPA, we're going to take the point value. The point value comes from the grade you get, as we discussed just up here. So your point value times the number of credit hours for that particular class. So if you get an A in a 4 credit hour class, that's going to give you more points than getting an A in a 1 credit hour class. And we are going to end up dividing by all of your credit hours. because it depends. The more credit hours you take, right, that's going to affect your GPA more. So let's do one of these. You took Math 212, Science 111, Accounting 102, and your Capstone your General Studies 279. So we're going to start here by looking at your grades, okay? So if you got a B, you earned 3 points. That's a horrible color. 3 points. If you got an F, you earned 0 points. Again, with the B, you earned 3, and a C is worth 2. So I call this last column a Becky term. I call these quality points because you have to have your quality points is kind of like taking your credit hours and your points together because it's the total points you've earned for that particular class. So you look at Math 212, which is Calculus 2, 4 credit hours at 3 points. 4 times 3, you earned 12 total points. For Science, 3 credit hours at 0 points. You earned 0 points. Accounting. You got a B. It was 3 credit hours. You earned 9. And for your capstone, 1 credit times your grade of 2. So you got 2 points. So the total points that you got, 12 plus 9 plus 2, gives you 23 points. All right, so that's not your GPA, that's just your points, right? That's the numerator. You have to divide by your total credit hours. So when you look at your total credit hours, 4 plus 3 plus 3 plus 1 is 11. So you divide by the credit hours. So quality points divided by credit hours gives you your GPA, which in this case is 2.09. Right? And you know that a 2 is equivalent to a C, so a GPA of 2.09 means you're averaging just above a C. That F in Science 111 really hurt your GPA in this particular example. All right, let's go on to number 4. Same basic one. You might want to try this one on your own. Hit pause, see what you can do, and then come back. But just going through it here, we know that a B is worth 3, and A is 4. A is 4, B is 3, and a D is 1. So when I multiply, right, credit hours times the points, I'll have 15 for Science. Good job. 8 for Foundations, 12 for English, 9 for Philosophy, and 4 points for French. Hey, I don't blame you that D in French. I don't do foreign languages. Right, so now I'm going to add those together, 15 plus 8 plus 12 plus 9 plus 4. If you add if you add like me, you get 48. I'm going to assume I added correctly. So I know that's the numerator in finding my GPA. And I divide by total credit hours. So 5 plus 2 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4, you took 17 credit hours. That's a lot. And when you divide that, you end up with 2.82. So that's almost a B average, just below a B average there. All right, let's go now to a new number 1. Talking about weighted averages, so hopefully you can read this okay. You've got a class where homework is 10%, and I'm going to go ahead and fill these in as we talk about them. So homework, with a color that works, homework is 10%, midterm is 25%, final exam is 35%, and tests are worth 30. So those are the weights, and if you notice, they should add up to 100%, and they do, because these are all of your grades, right? All of your grades is 100%. So now, weights can be percents. Scores are just going to be scores. So when we look at these, we say, okay, we've got Ralph in this class has an average score of homework of an 85, and his midterm has a score of 90, and his average test score is an 88, and his exam score is a 75. Notice how I didn't put percents on these because they're scores, right? These are just the scores of what we're doing here. And now if I want to find his overall grade, so I say, okay, let me change colors just for fun. So his homework, he had an 85, and it's worth 10%. So the percentage of that is going to give you if you want to go with the term of quality points, right? Then I'm going to take his midterm score of 90 and multiply by 25. Oh, timeout, phone call. Okay, sorry about that. So we had our midterm at 25%, then we have our tests at 30%. I'm going to have to change color so you can see that. And then we have our final exam at 35%. So I multiply each of these pieces. So I've got 8.5 plus 22.5 plus 26.4 plus 26.25. So these are like the points that you earned in each category. So when I add all of those together, I end up with a grade of 83.65%. Like this is your overall grade, which is a B. So based off of this information, even though you got a C on your final exam and it was 35% of your grade, everything else was high enough that you still end up with a B in this class, according to these weights. Next problem, Oprah is in a science class. She must have went back to school. So you can see now in these, this one is a little bit different. We have our percentages, but you can see her grades. She's got 6 lab reports. So you've got to come up with an average lab report grade to multiply by the weight. So if I'm going to add those up, I get 421 divided by the 6 lab reports, and her average lab grade is 70.176%. And then I'm going to do the same with the quizzes, and I'm going to add those up and get 402, divide that by her 5 quiz grades, and she's got an 80.4% average on her quizzes. Okay, so now that I have average, right, because the midterm and final are just 1 grade, so I don't need to do anything for those averages. And now I can go ahead and put all of these things together. So if you look up top, labs are 15%, so I'll take her lab score and multiply by 15%. I'll take her quizzes, which was 80.4, and multiply by, quizzes are 25%. Midterm is 20% of her grade, so her midterm was a 79 and it's 20%. And then the final exam is 40%, so 64. You got a D? You, Oprah, got a D? What? And once again, you'll notice that the percents or the weights are all add up to 100. So if I multiply these together, I'm going to get 10.53, and then 20.1, then 15.8, and 25.6 points on the final exam. So if we add up Oprah's the points that she earned in each category, Oprah will end up with a 72.03%, which we know to be a C. So which is pretty good. I mean, only one category, quizzes, did you average better than a B. Everything else was either a C or a D. So to end up with a C, that makes perfect sense. All right, so go Oprah. Way to pull out that C. And let's do another one of these. Last problem for this video. At a local high school, 5% of students are 14, 18% are 15, 21% are 16, 22% are 17, 27% are 18, and 7% are 19. What's the average age of these students? So you go through and kind of go one by one. 14 is 5%. 15 is 18%. 16 is 21%. 17 is 22%. 18 is 27%. And 19 is 7%. Right? So each one, and again, percentages add up to 100. As long as your percentages add up to 100, you're golden. So I multiply. And when I multiply, I get 0.7, 2.7, 3.36, 3.74, 4.86, and 1.33. You want to round as little as possible with these. General math rule, we don't want to round until the very end. So as much as possible, keep your answers as exact as possible. I'm going to add all of these up, and our average age in this school is 16.69. So somewhere between 16 and 17 is our average age. And if you look at the numbers, you look at the percents, that's kind of right in the middle, it makes sense. So thanks for watching video 1 on weighted averages.